Yep. And I should have maybe clarified on the basketball side of things, but hey, it just makes total sense because I think that's what happens in sports. Is usually the sports that the fans want coaches fired usually show up a lot better than the new coaches that everyone's excited about, like they are in basketball. It's usually how it works. But as you can tell, though, from the title, and if you've been on social media at all, or if you've been living under a rock, you probably did not realize that people are pretty opinionated on a particular thing that has not just been a one-time deal, but has been an ongoing deal with Razorback basketball attendance at Bud Walton Arena. Now, last night, I know Curtis was at the game, I was at the game, and it's a Monday night, 7 o'clock against Pacific. It is what it is. But I know, Curtis, you can probably back me up on this. That was one of the worst crowds I have seen in Bud Walton Arena that was not dealing with a snowstorm, ice storm, maybe since the Pelfrey days. It was that level of bad. And it is embarrassing if you're a Razorback fan because everyone sees it. You got Bobby Regan on Barstool Sports putting up articles about it. You got Kentucky fans trolling. You got all the other fans in the SEC trolling you for all your games. Forget the game itself, which I know we'll get into just a little bit. But this is what people are upset about is the lack of attendance. And guys, it's getting to the point where now it's no longer just an anomaly, one game thing. This is a problem, as we call it. This is a problem for Razorback basketball fans not showing up to these games.
Yeah, man. Got to figure it out. Who knew that mid would be the operative word at the basketball palace of mid-America? It's wild, man. And listen, I am not here to browbeat anybody. Like I'm sure that every reason being thrown out there right now is true to the person who lists them. It's too expensive. Can't do weeknights. Weather's bad. Opponent sucks. Corporate, guzzling of all the tickets. Poor marketing. The team sucks. So why would I pay my money to watch? Like I hear you on all of that. And I'm not going to argue with anyone who has their own personal reasons for not being able to attend. But what I will say is one, we cannot be trying to call ourselves the standard while simultaneously comparing ourselves to other programs when the stands are empty. We got to stop doing that. I don't give a shit how many people are at Mizzou Arena tonight. Arkansas fans allegedly are built different. And it's just a point blank fact, I think right now, to your point, John, that there's a significant difference in the total attendance, the student participation, just the overall atmosphere in general right now compared to Eric Musselman's tenure outside of when like the wheels fell off at the very end of last season. I mean, it's several thousand bodies per night. And it's getting worse. Like it's gotten worse since the opener, in my opinion. And it's not about, it's really, I understand it's like a trigger thing for people. It's not about like pointing fingers and getting offended and playing the blame game. It's about like identifying what the disconnect is and getting it fixed, because folks should not be getting pissed off at John Calipari for asking more than half of tickets sold to be tickets scanned at the games. And also can be true at the same time here, John Calipari shouldn't have to be doing this and begging people publicly after 4 games to show the hell up.
Yeah, Curtis, you said the word disconnect there, and I think that's the big one here. Because again, there's a ton of reasons why people wouldn't go to the game. Pacific being one of them, Monday night being one of them. All those are completely valid. But for the University of Arkansas, there has to be some type of incentive to make fans want to come. And honestly, preseason, I would have just thought that Cal would be enough. I thought that there would be enough like shine and allure around Cal and this all these 5 stars and the talent they had. I thought that would kind of carry them for a while, despite the non-conference home schedule not being that great. But honestly, I think you make a good point, Curtis, that like you don't get to claim to be the best environment in college basketball and the best fan base in college basketball if people aren't going to games. So I understand, like I get both sides of the coin here. But yeah, I don't think the U of A really cares whether or not people come to these games. At least that's what, because a lot of these tickets are scanned or sold already, I should say, definitely not scanned. And so for the U of A, I kind of also get why they're like, who cares if you come on a Monday night to Pacific? Because we already sold all the tickets. We sold the entire arena. But I agree. I think there's a reason why Cal is saying what he's saying, because the players probably, that's a big reason why you come to Arkansas, is playing in Bud Walton Arena, playing in front of these environments. And I understand that you're just simply not going to have the same environment for Alabama in February that you are Pacific in mid-November. I get all that. But it is kind of crazy to me that it's going the other way, because it's not like this is a brand new topic. Because Curtis, I remember you and I used to talk about this a lot during the Muss tenure, where they'd play Fordham or whatever in November, and I'm like, man, dude, there's just nobody here. Like, it kind of sucks that this Bud Walton Arena is supposed to be awesome, and there's not a ton of people here. But it does seem like it's going the other way. It's not one of those things. It's kind of crazy to me, and it kind of makes me think, like, are the fans like pushing back? Like, are people going out of their way to not go to games, which is what you'd think they'd be doing for football? I don't know, man. Ultimately, like, I know that when conference play rolls around, Bud Walton Arena is going to be rocking. People are going to be there. It is just kind of strange to see such little attendance to the point where people nationally are talking about it.
Yeah, the lower bowl was less than half full last night.
Yep. And I will speak as someone from experience due to the fact that I went to the University of Arkansas for so long. I remember well those Pelfrey years. I was in the student section for those, and the main reason being is because you didn't have to show up early to get the front row of the student section. You could show up about 10 minutes before the game, and you got it right up front. It was that type of thing. That's the type of attendance it reminded me of last night. And it's a culmination of a lot of things. So I'm not saying, at least just pointing to one entity or one group of people that's at fault here. I think it's very much a group effort. I believe that it's accumulation of a few things. One, Eric Musselman, say what you want about the man. The man is a genius marketer, and he did it all himself. He knew what he wanted, how he wanted, and how he wanted to do it. And I think the U of A just got used to that, of somebody doing it too. I think bringing in Cal, similar to what you said, Andrew, I think the U of A probably thought the same thing. Oh, it's Calipari. We don't have to do anything. People are just going to show up because John Calipari is the head coach. I think it's that. I think it's the season ticket issue where you sold out nothing but season tickets, and then you leave it in their hands to resell them or to give them away. They don't. I think it's a matter of not having good marketing towards the people there at the games, making the experience easy. I think not marketing games, which that should not be an excuse, but like we talked about, Curtis, when we were down there in Dallas, no one knew about that Arkansas-Baylor game, and there was zero excuse for it. Zero excuse for nobody to know about that game. So I think it's just all of this accumulating is becoming a deal. And this isn't even people calling out Arkansas because they hate John Calipari or they hate Arkansas. No, this is people within the state of Arkansas that's calling you out, fans, and calling you out, the U of A, because y'all have failed at this. This is pathetic. It is a pathetic excuse of an attendance, and there's zero excuse for it. And you can sit there and point the fingers and play the blame game. It's like, I don't care. I don't want the labor pains. Give me the baby. I want it fixed, however you need to do it. And it's just a failure of epic proportions where, guys, I love Bud Walton Arena. It's my favorite venue of all sports here at Arkansas. But I'm starting to feel like seeing Auburn fans in that little jungle that they have, seeing Coleman Coliseum with Mammoth, seeing whatever all across the SEC. They don't care about opponents. They don't care about anything. They're showing up. And then you, with John Calipari as your coach, made the biggest headlines and the biggest splash in all of college basketball history. You can't even get 8,000 people into the stands. Make it make sense, because it doesn't. It's sad. It's pathetic. And I am at a loss, because I never dreamed in a million years here we would be, 4 games into the season of the John Calipari era of Arkansas, and we're talking about lack of attendance at Bud Walton Arena. Never would have dreamed it.
It's wild, man. I don't think anybody anticipated this. And maybe they overhyped the John Calipari factor of this in terms of the butts that it would put in the seats. But it's also like the atmosphere amongst those who are there, which has just really, really been lacking. And people can miss me with they're playing with their food against Lipscomb and Troy out there. Let's not act like Eric Musselman's teams were particularly entertaining in the early portions of schedules, right? I mean, they won games, but a lot of times it was ugly. They'd shoot 24% in a half, and you're wondering what the hell was going on. And they'd eventually turn it on and get it going late and win games. That's why he coined the phrase spurtability, because they would suck for 30 minutes. They'd wind up beating these mid-majors because they had one run where they'd pull away. But the crowd was a major factor there. Hell, even during the COVID year, when you could only get like 4,400 people in there, it was rowdy because of the excitement and the engagement within the building. And that's not there either. And that's what I hate using this phrase, Andrew. I'm sorry. I can't quite put my finger on why that's the case here, because there has been a lot of entertaining stuff that's gone on. But yeah, I mean, there's been some clunky basketball here and there. But at the same time, you got to do like a dude Thero who's, throwing down dunks. I mean, this team is high flying. You got NBA talent out there. But even those who are showing up, it just doesn't seem, it's not intimidating, the environment right now. And yeah, we all agree it's going to get better once SEC play comes around. But if there's such a noticeable drop off now, comparatively speaking to previous years at this same time, how do we know that there's not going to be a comparative drop off moving forward? Like, are people really going to be that excited about Georgia coming to town for a midweek? Yeah. I don't know.
It does seem like there's just always going to be like a different reason or a different excuse you can point to. And look, it's not lost on us that a lot of this has to do with like a lot of those season tickets that don't show up are not normal everyday fans. These are employees of the JB Hunt section that they bought out, that those guys aren't showing up at the games. Like, I get all that, but when the attendance is as low as it's been, it's like it's really everyone. It's a group effort. But I was just looking around John, you mentioned how we look at Auburn and we see they're jumping. You look at Bama and they have their arena jumping. Today I scroll by Ole Miss's Twitter account, and Chris Beard is doing a video where he's like, "Hey, Thursday night we're doing semi-pro night. We're handing out headbands. We're handing out T-shirts, free corn dogs." And I get it. You don't want to have every game turn into a gimmick game. But again, it comes back to incentive. Why would fans go to games, especially when the opponent sucks? Which, by the way, I don't buy the opponent sucks thing because, growing up, I went to a ton of games growing up, and I can remember some of the teams that Arkansas played, but it's like my first ever Arkansas baseball game was Oral Roberts on a midweek. And I was just so excited to go see Arkansas play because I was living out of state. It was a big deal. Like, I don't know why the opponent really matters that much. And to your point, Curtis, like, again, in conference play, is it going to matter when it's LSU or when it's Georgia or whoever? Like, are you going to use that excuse then? Because again, like, I think you could make the argument it would be easier to go. It's like now's when you should go see this team because it might be harder to go see them later. But I do think the university just needs to do a better job of getting fans to want to go to games. Like, I saw some student on Twitter complaining that he didn't know there was a game until 20 minutes before the game when they sent out something about the bus route changing or whatever. And so it's like students, which, by the way, the student section used to be the thing you could always count on. Even during the like pits of the Musselman era when the crowds did suck against non-conference opponents, the students would be there an hour and a half early. It seems like the students don't really, there's not really a, you said disconnect. I keep thinking about that word disconnect. There's just a disconnect between the team, the students, the athletic department, the fans, and season ticket holders. Like, it just doesn't seem like a well-oiled machine. And so I think Cal talking about it is a good sign that makes you think that they're going to start trying to do weird things to try and spice this up a little bit, which sometimes you just need a little spice up.
I hope so, man. And to your point about the student section, getting there early and just being packed out for 5 years, every game that I walk to in Bud Walton Arena, I like to be there early to see who's warming up or whatever. So I get in there an hour and a half before when they let us, and I walk out of that tunnel, and we would never be able to get up to our seats in the press row because of the flood of students. Like, you would just have to wait for 10 minutes until they all got down there and got to their spot, and then you could go up. It ain't a problem right now.
Well, and just for context of the Calipari comment that he made after the game, here's him. I guess it was in the radio post-game show with Coach Z and Chuck, just kind of giving a message to fans.
Thank you all for being in the rain and coming to this game. And I'm going to say this for everybody listening. If you have tickets and you're not going to use them, I guess you could go online and give them to the university.
Absolutely.
They'll give them away. Or even better yet, give them to your neighbor. Here, do you want to go to an Arkansas game? Think about the Kansas game, what that game was like, because 50% of the building were people who could never get in the building. And it was made their month being able to be in there and enjoy that. So don't sit on tickets. Either give them away or we'll give them away, because, this environment is so good. Now, I'm going to tell you, anybody that came here today in that weather, crazy. And I appreciate